an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Red Rising Book 3, Morning Star, Chapters 24 through 27, Hic Sunt Leonis, Exodus, The Ice, and Bay of Laughter. In these chapters, so we have another crash landing, and the crash landings at this point are so varied, but I wasn't prepared for sea monster crash landing. I'm kind of glad because we need to see them. I've heard about them, but also, can we not? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Cassie for commissioning this episode, and also thank you to Cassie for being flexible when I was unwell on Thursday and couldn't record at my usual time. You guys, I straight up, this happened previous to with the other book that I was covering as well, but I was so tired and foggy on Thursday that when I went to reread the chapters today, I realized that I stopped a chapter early on Thursday and thought I had done all my reading. And then when I went back this time, I was like, oh, wait, 27. Oh, no, I didn't listen to that one yet. So, I'm glad I didn't come up on camera and just be very confident about reading through chapter 26. Oops. But yeah, these chapters are, it's a combination of some really great stuff happening because Mustang's back. And you guys know that I have been really wanting more Mustang, to see what she's up to see her telling Darrow to just shut the fuck up and listen to her for a change. I really didn't foresee the flack that he is getting from other corners regarding Mustang joining them. I really should have, but I'm going to be honest, I would not have expected Victra. And it's interesting to me how Victra is, because she's a Julii, there has been a whole thing about the fact that she is not her shitty monster sister, that he can trust her despite who her family is, and she is trying to do the same shit that's been done to her to Mustang and doesn't seem to see it. And that's the thing, isn't it? We don't see the things when they're directed at us regarding other people. It's reversing stuff. It's wild. You guys, very, very short detour here. But I am on TikTok, and I've been trying to make an effort to post a little bit more lately, interact a little bit more. And Rashawn brought a post to my attention. So a lot of you have probably heard about this. Would you rather be alone in the woods with a man or a bear? Question that has been circulating a lot. This is something that has been asked of women, and most women have chosen bear because a bear will only kill you, and God knows what a man would do. Or a bear, if a bear attacks you and you tell people, they'll believe you, versus a man attacking you. A lot of discourse surrounding that, a lot of angry men who feel like they're being lumped in unfairly. But as much as women are understanding the point of this exercise and getting frustrated with men for not understanding why they're choosing a bear, they are reacting in an almost identical way, white women specifically, to a question that a black woman asked of, black women, if you are alone in a conference room, Would you rather be alone with a white man or a white woman? Overwhelmingly, black women said they would rather be alone with a white man because they know what they're dealing with. But white women are very tricksy, can be backstabbing, can like weaponize tears, and just straight up will perceive bullying where there isn't any just because somebody isn't like playing nice with them the way they expect. And the comments this woman was getting were like almost identical to the comments men were leaving about the bear versus man. Women talking about how this is divisive, I'm not like that, blah, blah, blah. Like the exact same response. It was almost eerie. And it's like, once again, you're trying to get men to understand, like, we're not lying about our experiences as women and the way we feel threatened and the number of times that we have had things happen to us. But yet you're trying to turn around and tell black women they must be lying about the interactions they've had with white women, that they must be misunderstanding or that they're making something. No, you know, and it's just the exact same concept, but they can't apply it to somebody else. The instant that it's directed at them, how dare you? And long story short, Victra, get over it. And I really wanted Darrow to sort of point that out to her, the fact that, like, she's a Julii, and that she keeps trying to fight against that name and her sister, and he doesn't bring it up. And I was genuinely surprised. I thought he would. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So 24, we had ended the previous chapter with Darrow saying, like, I'm not going to be here to see this battle on Phobos. And when we start 24, he is getting onto a ship to leave under the guise of being one of the Golds who is, like, you know, evacuating. And there is just a complete uproar. And all of these, like, systems of public transportation and stuff are starting to get overwhelmed. And he describes the fact that, like, the people who are running the place, the low colors, they know all the tricks of getting around. So even though the Greys are trying to make blockades and checkpoints, these people have other ways. They know, like, you know, the side tunnels and staircases that have been blocked off and all of these methods that are not seen as important because they aren't being used. Now, the folks who are on the bottom have this distinct advantage here. And he is describing, like, there's this moment. The debris from a destroyed low-color skiff crashes through the vaulted glass and steel ceiling of a Skyrush terminal, killing civilians and shattering any illusion I might have had that this war would be sanitary. And I do appreciate that being mentioned. You know, as much as you can say don't kill civilians, don't rape, you can't control what people do. You have to, at a point, like, lift your hands and just be like, I have done my best. I have told them and I have instructed others to monitor. And there is a point at which I just can't handle everything, every last detail. The hangar is a vast rectangle skinned with dust and cobwebs. In the center of the hangar's deck sits a silver 70-meter-long luxury yacht shaped like an arrow, a sparrow in flight, which sounds so cool. I would love to see this on screen. So they get in. This is like Quicksilver's, and he has a pilot ready, Lieutenant Vesta, who was clearly told to be ready, but did not realize that she was going to be transporting Darrow. And when she sees him, it's just like, oh shit. And they get into the ship, and there's this moment here that I don't know if this is significant or not, but the door we enter opens with a groan, and Ragnar and two of the obsidian howlers enter the room. Fresh from the battlefield, Ragnar's white armor is dented and stained. The tower has fallen. Those are the stains of Sub-Governor Priscilla Au-Khan. Well done, my friend, I say, taking the scepter in my hands. And he is feeling a little weird because he has met this woman's son, Priam, he seemed decent enough. Decent is not enough, Ragnar says forlornly. Not for their world. With a grunt, I bend the curule against my knee and toss it back to him to show my agreement. Give it to your sister. Time to go. I try to wipe. Oh my God, guys. I try to wipe the blood from the curule off of my white suit's leg. It just smears over the oily fabric, giving me a red stripe on my thigh. And I couldn't tell if this was meant to be metaphorical. I'm trying to keep blood off me and just trying to get it off smears it and makes it more obvious. It may just simply be that. Or, and I think probably in retrospect after the crash, it likely is just that metaphor. But I thought for a moment, is somebody watching and are they going to identify him because of that streak on his leg? Is this going to wind up being like a marker through which somebody can pick him out of a crowd of other people wearing the same kind of armor, you know? But I think that when they crash, that armor is kaput. I may be wrong about that. So I think that's nothing. Cassie's in the chat saying, can we commission a whole episode in that voice? Oh my God. Cassie, a while back, I don't even remember who it was. Bless them. But a while back, when I was recording The Legend of Korra with my husband, Korra episodes will often open with a recording that's like a 1930s kind of voice or 1940s. And, you know, today on the... And I would do my openings with that voice a lot for the episodes. And I had somebody email me asking if they could commission me to do a whole episode in that voice. And they were like serious. And I wrote back and I was like, but what would I do the episode on? Like, I know you want that voice, but what would I read something out loud? And they never replied, but they seemed quite sincere because they were like throwing ideas out in this email. So apparently I just need to do like some silly voices in general, have a variety of them. And speaking of voices, guys, this dude who's doing the narration for this audiobook, he is quite good. And there's just one kind of weird thing this time. And I think that he is managing a bunch of different accents, right? He's got a lot of characters with a lot of different sort of tones to them to make them identifiable immediately. And I think Holiday with her American accent is fucking him up a little bit. And I'm not saying that he's like really just screwed up, but there's just one or two times where it's clear he has to like get out of her voice and into somebody else's, and he had trouble doing it because I'll think it's still Holiday talking and it'll turn out that was Mustang, and I'm like, wait, that's not her voice. So it's kind of reassuring to know that even like professional narrators, they can't just dip in and out of accents like that easily all the time. So they are getting ready to head out. And somebody is standing in their way. And it turns out to be Mustang. And Darrow is not excited to see her. And is taken aback that she knows exactly where he is. And the reveal eventually is that Ragnar is the one who released, what was his name? You know, the Telemanus. He released him because I had been sort of under this impression when it was mentioned that this guy was released, that maybe that was meant to look as if it wasn't with Darrow's permission, but it was. Turns out I was wrong about that. Like, that was straight up done without Darrow's permission. But Ragnar did it because he felt that teaming up with Mustang and the Telemanuses was the thing to do, and he was like sick and tired of watching Darrow not make the moves that he needed to make regarding that. I fully agree. And I like the fact that Ragnar took it upon himself, even though I can understand why it's sort of giving Darrow the heebie-jeebies. I can sympathize, but also He's correct, dude. And you really, like, once you took over from Severo, I think the fact that the Telemonases had reached out, that Severo didn't tell you, you and him got in a fight and you took back command, I think the next thing you should have done had been to reach out to them. And he just sped up a process that, in my mind, was inevitable. This was going to be where you wound up eventually anyway. So, the way that he, like, talks to her here, it's not very friendly because he thinks that she's coming at him with a certain energy, not understanding that she has been invited and is under the impression that he knows and was one of the people inviting her. So she's sort of like, what the hell is your problem? And eventually realizes, like, oh, you didn't know I was, going to be here. And he accuses her of leaving Mars to the mercy of her brother. She says, I left Mars to save it. You know everything is a compromise, and you know it's not Mars. You're angry at me for leaving. I need you to stand aside, Mustang. This is not about us, and I don't have time to bicker. I'm leaving, so either you move or we open the door and fly through you. And she is just like, oh, get the fuck over yourself. 1, no, you will not. 2, if I weren't going to be, like, backing you up and coming with you, I could have waited to ambush you and completely fuck you up. If I was in with the Sovereign, I could have reported you, but I didn't do any of that. Will you just stop for a second and use any logic and think this through? Can't you tell that you are saying you want a better world and that I also want that? And he's like, well, then why did you surrender? And she says, because I couldn't watch my brother's reign of terror continue. I want peace. This is not the time for peace, I say. Gory hell, you're thick. I know that. Why do you think I am here? Mustang, I'll tell you what, girl, do you really want this guy? Because he is just frustrating. He's so mad at her. He's being purposely obtuse, and it's just fucking irritating. Oh my God, I just wanted to slap him. I really did. So finally, she's like, I'm coming with you. And he says, you don't even know where we're going. And she just logics him right into, yeah, well, no. I can tell by the way you're dressed and the fact that you have Ragnar with you and all of this, you're obviously going to go to the Valkyrie Spires and ask his mom to give you an army. And Darrow is just like, shut up. Like, he didn't... Darrow, you have got to stop underestimating this girl. It's, like, offensive at this point. You know? She is very smart, and you just keep being surprised. You just keep being genuinely surprised. When are you going to get the picture, man? Like, no joke. She's smarter than you. You're clever, and you have a lot of endurance and your actual, like, physical presence and strength and all of that, sure. But, like, let's be real. She's smarter than you. And you have got to start recognizing that, because I'm getting fatigued, sir. Anyway, she says the Telemonases know as well, but I'm tired of having insurance plans against you and playing games. Aren't you? And let this be our second chance. So he agrees, but when he comes in, Holiday is not happy about this at all, and is telling him, like, she's even worse than Victra, which I just really, I get on the one hand feeling this way, but on the other hand, I'm like, you guys have just repeatedly seen that you need golds to get by. Like, you've got, like, that's how this all started, was with golds. So the idea of being like, we aren't using them because they're part of a family that's too powerful, too high up the food chain. Kiddos, that ship has sailed, my friends. Like, and she has not done anything to indicate that she's working at odds with you. she has not been working with you because Severo didn't reach out, which I guess they don't know about the fact that there was an effort made on Mustang's part that Severo didn't return. But it's just like, I don't know, they're just having this sort of knee-jerk reaction, and I'm like, you gotta get over it, guys. And Ragnar, even though he like greets her and is like, oh, I did this because a poor friend pushes from behind, a good friend jumps with. But he also goes up to Mustang and is like, hey, by the way, if you fuck around, I will definitely kill you. So don't fuck around, all right? And she is respectful and nods to him. Around us, the city of 30 million churns. Deep space commercial transports racing past little civilian taxis and skippers meant to go between the buildings here. Stirring speech. Victra purrs over the ship's comm. Clown and Screwface just took Skyrush's main terminals. Rolo's men have seized the water cisterns for the mid-sector. Quicksilver's networks are broadcasting it all the way to Luna. Scythes popping up everywhere. They'll hit back soon. As you said, darling, we massacred the first responders the Jackal sent. Got a few Bone Riders just as we wanted. No Lilith or Thistle, though. And then he mentions Mustang, and she says, am I on a private line? You can't trust her. Look at her brother, her father. Greed is in her blood. Of course she would ally with us. It fits her aims. She needs us because she's losing her war. But what happens when we give her what she needs? What happens when we're in her way? Will you be able to put her down? Will you be able to pull the trigger? And he just says, yes. And that's how that little section ends. It doesn't start a new chapter, but we have like a line break there. But yeah, like I said, I just really expected Darrow to sort of throw it in her face about her blood. But instead, he's just assuring her that, yeah, I would definitely be able to take Mustang down if I have to. And honestly, at this point, I believe him. There would have been a time where him saying that I would have been like, come on, man. But he's been through so much. I think that's true now. It wasn't before, but it is now. And there is this interesting bit. We're getting all of these it's a sort of montage of what's going on with everybody's rising up. And this one got me, you guys. And at last, a gold woman in a sky blue cocktail dress, pearls about her neck, gold hair unbound to her waist. She stands near a window as Sons of Ares spread through the building, levels beneath her penthouse. Engulfed in her own drama, she raises a scorcher to her golden head, body stiff in imagined majesty. Her finger tightens around the trigger. You guys, that was so cutting and brutal. Like, engulfed in her own drama, imagined majesty, devastating. I mean, just being like, you really think you're doing something. You really think you're portraying something. And actually, it's like minuscule and pathetic and nothing. God, that was just, I felt attacked. And I'm not this lady, you know, but like I felt personally attacked. So eventually, we have Mustang looking at all of the different ships and noting who's likely on board and the connections that she has to them, which I do appreciate, just being reminded that these people are just names to me, but they're actual human beings and people to the folks who know them, and that could influence the way they behave. It's a trap, isn't it? Mustang asks quietly. You never meant to hold Phobos. And he tells her about the Inuit tribes of Earth and how they killed wolves. I don't know if this is true or not. I meant to look into it and I totally forgot. He says they chiseled knives till they were razor sharp, coated them in blood, and stuck them upright in the ice. Then the wolves would come up and lick the blood. And as the wolf licks faster and faster, he's so ravenous, he doesn't realize until it's too late that the blood he's drinking is his own. That is grim. It's so hard for me to look, I get it. That You want to keep wolves away so that they don't eat you. Like, that's valid. But I can't imagine a wolf and not picture my dog Pippin. And so I'm just like, oh, ow, oh, that's so mean. But, you gotta do, like, Jesus Christ. But it's just my sad little modern mind having trouble wrapping around that. They hate that I was one of them. How many prime soldiers do you think those ships will launch at Phobos to take me, the greatest abomination, for their own glory? Pride will again be the downfall of your color. You're trying to get them on the station because you don't need Phobos. Like you said, I'm going to the Valkyrie Spires for an army. Orion and you might still have the remnants of my fleet, but we will need more ships than that. Severo is waiting in the ventilation system of the hangars. When the assault forces land to take back the military spire and the Needles, they'll leave their shuttle behind in those hangars. Severo will descend from his hiding place, hijack the shuttles, and return them home to their ships packed with all the suns we have left. And she says, do you honestly believe you can control the Obsidians? Which I was surprised was even a question. But I keep forgetting about the fact that the Obsidians were like pretty much the only real threat Golds have ever faced. So it makes sense that this is sort of at the top of her mind, And Darrow lays this fully at Ragnar's feet. They live in fear of their gods in the Board of Quality Control Asgard station, Golds in suits of armor playing at Odin and Freya. Same way that I lived in fear of the Greys in the pot, as we were cowed by the Proctors. Ragnar is going to show them just how mortal their gods really are. How? We will kill them, Ragnar says. And I was just like, yeah, Mustang. How? What do you mean? He says they're going to show how mortal their gods are. How? What do you mean, how? I have sent friends months ago to spread the truth. We will return to my mother and my sister as heroes, and I will tell them their gods are false with my own tongue. I will show them how to fly. I will give them weapons, and this ship will carry them to Asgard, and we will conquer it as Darrow conquered Olympus. Then we will free the other tribes and carry them away from this land on Quicksilver ships. Which, that's not going to go the way that you want it to go, and I'm so sorry about it, because it sounds great. But there's a whole other thing that's about to happen. And she, Mustang is like, well, this sounds insane, but it's possible if Ragnar can actually control them. And he says, I will not control, I will lead. Mustang admires the man for a moment. I believe you will. And I appreciate that eventually she just lets it go. You got to have a point where you trust the other people that you're depending on. And that's it. And then there's a line that was underlined by a lot of people, and I understand why. These civilians are discovering that their place in the world is smaller than they imagined. They do not matter. In war, men lose what makes them great. Their creativity, their wisdom, their joy. All that's left is their utility. War is not monstrous for making corpses of men so much as it is for making machines of them. And woe to those who have no use in war except to feed the machines. And I just gotta say, I think that's pretty insightful. I like it. So, eventually, we get to this point where a ship appears suddenly on the scanners. And Mustang is like, what's that? And the pilot is like, oh, it's a refugee ship, civilian vessel. But it's coming, it's closing in on them quickly. And Mustang's like, if it's civilian, why wasn't it on our sensors from the beginning? Why did it just appear? It could have sensor shielding, Holiday says warily. The ship closes to 40 kilometers. Something is wrong here. Civilian vessels don't have that sort of acceleration, Mustang says. Dive, I say. Get us through the atmosphere now. Holiday on the gun. The blue slips into defense protocols, increasing our speed, strengthening our rear shields. We hit atmosphere. My teeth rattle together. You guys, there's this moment where it happened so quickly that it took a moment before I understood. He's describing the blue. Our pilot continues to juke, twitching her fingers on the electric gel, face placid and lost in her dance with the pursuing craft, her eyes distant from her body, a single droplet of sweat beading on her right temple and trickling down her jaw. Then a gray blur rips into the cockpit and she explodes in a shower of meat. It's so abrupt and so fucking brutally described that I had a moment of just like, wait, like it just, the uranium shell takes off the top half of her body, then rips through the floor. A second shell, the size of a child's head, screams through the ship between Mustang and me, punching a hole in the floor and ceiling. Oh my God, you guys, this is so horrifying. And Ragnar is fucking laughing. This man is truly unhinged. Odin knows we are coming to kill him. Even false gods do not die easily. I am coming, Odin. I am coming for you. We find out later that this man managed to shoot down the ship as they were falling. I mean, sir, just start your own society. Go ahead. Who's going to stop you? Who's going to check you, boo? My God. So brace for impact, and they plummet towards the ice and go underwater. Now they have got training that keeps them from absolutely panicking, but this felt so terrifying to me. I know that they're in equipment that is meant to sort of help them out in these sorts of extreme weather conditions, but being underwater changes the entire game, and that made me so anxious, you guys. Sealskin protects my body, though, so I cut through the webbing with my razor, pressure building in my ears as I search frantically for Mustang. She's alive and already working on escape. A light in her hand carves through the darkness of the flooded cockpit, her razor's out, cutting through the webbing like I did. So they both manage to take a moment before they attempt to ascend to the surface, which I just can't imagine having this sort of presence of mind in this situation. There are supplies here we might need. Mustang searches in the cockpit for the standard emergency kit while I search for my equipment bag. It's missing along with the rest of the gear in the cargo hold that we were bringing the Obsidians to seize Asgard. Mustang joins me carrying a plastic emergency box the size of her torso, which she pulled from a cabinet behind the pilot's chair. Taking a last breath, we leave the oxygen behind. So they managed to finally get up to the surface. And there is a moment where they consider using light to lead their way, and it would just attract things. So they don't dare to, and he says even Ragnar wouldn't dare, which makes it extremely worrying later when Mustang jumps back in the water with a fucking flare. And I was just like, why? And indeed, something surfaces with her that's trying to eat her. So, yeah. And it takes a while before they actually make it to the surface, and they sort of think for a moment that they are heading in the wrong direction. There's that thing that happens when you're underwater where you aren't sure if you're heading upward or not. I stab my razor up into the ice, dull gray skin that stretches above us. It's too thick to push clear of. I grip her shoulder and draw a circle to signal my plan. I turn so my back is against hers. Together, nearly blind and out of oxygen, we cut a circle in the ice. I keep going until I feel the ice give slightly. It's too heavy to push up without traction, too buoyant to pull down with just our arms. So I swim to the side so Mustang can savage the cylinder we've cut with her razor, mincing the ice enough to push the emergency box through first. Again, just the fact that they can think clearly enough to do this. Remarkable. Just insane. So they managed to pull out of the water, and they're sitting there absolutely racked. The wind combined with being soaked here, it's bad. Holiday comes out of the water, and he asks, "Where's Ragnar?" She says, "I don't know. Something is down there and Ragnar pulled it off me." He starts to say that he's going to go in, and Holiday straight up fires into the ground in front of him and is like, "The fuck you are." And instead, Mustang jumps in, and she manages to pull him out. But this thing on her, you guys, it's so gross. A maggot white creature the size of a small man has latched itself to her back. It's shaped like a snail in full sprint, which is difficult for me to even understand what he means. Except its back is tough, hairy, translucent flesh mottled with dozens of shrieking little mouths, rimmed with needle teeth that gnaw into her back. It's eating her alive. A second creature, the size of a large dog, is stuck on Ragnar's back. I needed to see these things because I knew they existed. You can't tell me we have created monsters to live on their planet to keep them in line and then not show me the monsters. Okay, so I get it. I mea culpa for even wanting to see this. I take it back. This is horrifying. No, thank you. Please do not. No. Dislike. Thumbs down. Do not recommend. Ugh. I hate this so much, you guys. I really do. And the nerve, the bay of laughter. Get the fuck out of here. How dare you? So he begins to do CPR on Ragnar, who is just so huge. Like, how do you even... Everybody is trying to treat their own wounds. Holiday has, taken a painkiller, so her eyes are fucking dilated like crazy, and she has it says her legs bound with res flesh from the med kit, which is such a wild name. Come back, I hear myself saying. Come back, your work isn't finished. Your people need you, I say. Holiday holds his hand, both of hers not equal to the size of the massive six-fingered paw. Do you want them to win? Holiday asks. Wake up, Ragnar. Wake up. He jerks beneath my hands, chest twitching as his heart kicks. Water bubbles out of his mouth, arms scrabbling at the ice in confusion as he coughs for air. He sucks it down, huge chest heaving as he stares up at the sky. His scarred lips curl back into a mocking smile. Not yet, All-Mother. Not yet. So, they have to regroup. Holiday says, we're fucked, because they're barely able to scavenge anything. They're freezing, of course, but he says that they're more likely to die of dehydration than the cold, which genuinely really surprised me, I have to say. And Mustang says she's right, we have to get out of here or we're dead. Our boxes of weapons are gone, our armor and grav boots and supplies sunk into the bottom of the sea. All that would have let the Obsidians destroy their gods, all that would have let us contact our friends in orbit. The satellites are blind. No one is watching, which I had forgotten, like, their ability to contact has been severely limited because that's the way they have had to handle Obsidians. We have to find real shelter. Last I saw of the charts in the cockpit, we're 200 kilometers from the spires. Might as well be 1,000, Holiday says gruffly. Ragnar watches us discuss wearily. He knows this land. He knows we can't survive here. And though he will not say it, he knows that he will watch us die one by one, and there will not be a thing he can do to stop it. All I could think about here, and this is not actually relevant, but I use the Calm app, and I use it almost exclusively for the sleep stories. For those who don't know what that is, it's little like sort of vignettes that are about a half hour to 40 minutes long, read by various people, sometimes famous people, sometimes people who just have really great soothing voices. And they're meant to be like these soothing, almost no stakes sorts of stories that help lull you to sleep. And I find them very helpful because my brain will just go and go and go. And I have trouble falling asleep. And there is Phoebe Smith, who is an adventurer, a real person, who has written about her travels to different places, and they've made sleep stories out of them. And one of them is her sleeping inside a glacier. She travels to the Arctic, and there are streams of water that burrow their way into glaciers and create these huge caverns. And if you have the right equipment, you can go walking through the caverns and set up camp inside and sleep there. And you're completely out of the wind, and it's like much warmer. As long as you've got something keeping you off of the wet ice underneath you, you're good. And so that was what I kept thinking about here, was like, man, if there was a way for them to find like some kind of tunnel and get at least out of the wind and find a way to set up some sort of central base camp, you know, but that wouldn't be enough. They need supplies. They need more, you know, even the drinking of the water off the ice will drop their core temperatures even more than they already have fallen. And that would kill them. So, he says, aren't nomads here? We always heard stories about marooned legionnaires. They are not stories. The clans seldom venture to the ice after autumn has fled. This is the season of the eaters. You didn't mention them, I say. I thought we would fly past their lands. I am sorry. What are eaters? Eaters of men, Ragnar says, shamed castouts from the clans. Bloody hell. I am really curious. Are they really eaters of men? Or is that just what they've been told? Like, just anytime there's a thing that's established fact that we all know this thing is true, in this universe, I'm just like, but do we know that? Because there's been so much misinformation circulated. And there are going to be things like this that even Darrow doesn't know the truth about, you know? And I'm willing to take it at face value, but I have questions in the back of my mind about it. They start to like discuss who it was that shot them down. And Darrow says, look, it's not the jackal, because he would have sent absolutely everybody after us. If they knew it was us, that would be a wrap. And Mustang says it's Cassius, that he came in a disguised ship. He's supposed to be on Luna. It was one of the positives of negotiating here. They get caught going behind my brother's back. It's as bad as them for me. As for me, worse. He must have sniffed out the diversion. Maybe he followed us from the hollows. I don't know. He's not stupid. He did catch you in the rain as well, going under the wall. Or someone told him, Holiday says, eyeing Mustang darkly. Why would I tell him when I'm on the gory damn ship? Mustang says. Valid. I was genuinely surprised that Holiday even said that shit out loud. Like, girl, you have to know that doesn't make any goddamn sense. You have to be aware. You're silly. This is silly. And Darrow says, well, I hope it is Cassius. If it is, then they won't just hop on grab boots and fly to Asgard for help, because then they'll have to explain to the Jackal why they were on Phobos to begin with. And this is when he asks how it went down. And Ragnar says, I fired a Sarissa out the back of the cargo bay from a shoulder launcher. You shot a missile at them while we were falling? Mustang asks incredulously. Yes, and I attempted to gather grav boots. I failed. I think you did just fine, Mustang says with a sudden laugh. It infects the rest of us, even Holiday. Ragnar doesn't understand the humor. Oh, God. That cracked me up too, though. That's really funny. He's just like, oh, I failed. Dude, give yourself a pass. Oh, God. There's only one option. We sack up and push across the mountains, find the downed ship. If it is Cassius in there, he'll have at least a full squad of 13th Legion Black Ops with him. So, yeah, the idea is let's go to them and take their stuff, which sounds like a great idea if you don't look at the fact that you guys are in the worst possible shape for assaulting a group of people who have weapons. Like, you guys really, I mean, but what else are they going to do? I don't even know. Oh, that's right. I forgot about this part. So Mustang says, that's not a good thing. Those Greys are better trained for winter combat than we are. And Holiday says, better than you, not me. And she shows the 13th Legion tattoo on her neck. And Mustang is like, wait, what? And she says, you're a Dragoon? I was. Point is, Praetorian field regulations mandate survival gear and long-range mission transport enough to last each squad a month in any conditions. They'll have food, water, heat, and grav boots. What if they survived the crash, Mustang says. Then they will not survive us, Ragnar says. And we're better off hitting them when they're still piecing themselves together, I say. We go now fast as we can, and we might get there before the storm lands. It's our only chance. I cannot. You guys, this is just so bonkers. So, the last sentence of this chapter is Mustang saying, it's Cassius. What if he's not alone? What if Aja is with him? I wouldn't mind seeing Aja and Ragnar mano a mano. I would be into it. I don't see anybody else giving him any sort of fight. And I don't, just to be clear, if Ragnar dies, we riot, right? Like, that's just an established, like, that's a gimme. But I can't think of anybody else who could pose a real obstacle to either one of them other than each other. My only concern is Ragnar being injured like he is. And his injury doesn't seem to be that severe. It seems like the emergency equipment they had is enough to keep them like patched up. So I'm thinking that maybe he would have been able to, like, in his top tier condition, absolutely crush Aja, but maybe this injury handicaps him to the point where they're about even. If she's there, I'm going to assume that she's there. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is Cassius, that Mustang's right, that Aja is there. Let's just take it as, like, worst case scenario, you know? I can't think of anybody else. But I really, like, my concern with all of this and this planet, the fact that they're cut off from everything, as much as that puts them in the position of not being able to ask for help where they are, and that sucks at the moment, if they take this ship is for the best, because that ship won't be able to report back like, hey, the Reaper's here, you know what I mean? But what I keep thinking about is the attack on, what is it that they keep calling it? Because they're going to try and kill, like, the Odin and Freya of this planet, which I just, it is wild to me that they have people who are actually living like that. There's something so twisted about setting things up that the gods are actually living on the planet and they're just real people. I mean, what kind of... These golds are fucked up. They're just fucked up. That's all there is to it. But how is it organized? Is it the same sort of way that like Olympus was a floating island, like a building above the ground? Is that the way that's... Is it set up in the exact same way? I suppose you may as well do it the same way. Why mix it up if it's been pretty successful before? Asgard. The Board of Quality Control's Asgard station. Golds in suits of armor playing at Odin and Freya. That's it. I am really curious the ways that they have shuttered the communication for obsidians. Does that exist also on the planet itself? I know that they can't like reach out beyond the planet, but I'm not sure exactly what kind of restrictions are made within the planet. And I'm assuming if they take Asgard, that Darrow can project, like what I'm picturing is a sort of local television network, basically. But I feel like a really sort of unclear view on how this planet operates and how many people there are and the way in which Ragnar fits into the hierarchy here. I don't think that I've missed that information. I think it hasn't been shared. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I know that he has told us some of his history, so I may have just forgotten some of the details that Ragnar has already told us. So forgive me if it's been shared and I have just straight up forgotten it. But the idea that we're going to Ragnar's mother for an army, it feels like he must be pretty important. If his mom can supply that, then she must be a badass, right? And as far as the eaters on the ice, like a big part of me is sort of wanting them to not be what they seem. He says that they have been exiled and that they are, that they eat other men, that they're cannibals. But has he been party to their exile? Has he seen that they have been accused of doing like horrific things and been cut off from the community because of that? Or is it a story that is circulated amongst them that that's who these men are? And actually maybe they are defectors or people who were trying to fight against the society and have been ostracized due to that, who didn't believe in the gods perhaps because they knew that they weren't what they said they were. I would really enjoy finding out that the eaters are like a completely different kind of community, organization, clan, whatever you want to call it, than he expected. Just because I am a fan of seeing a person who, when you're in their territory, as we are with Ragnar right now, finding out that they don't know absolutely everything about the place they're from, because we don't know everything about the place we are from. You know, if we were captured by somebody and they were like, tell me about Earth, and we escorted them to Earth and wound up on a continent we were not familiar with, there's going to be all sorts of stuff. Language, landscape, food, culture that we aren't going to be able to explain. And it's just a little challenging for me with this book. And I don't blame him for not getting into this, but it can sometimes feel like we're doing a bit of that Star Wars thing where every planet is is a different sort of ecosystem, and the whole planet is that same ecosystem. And it's not as extreme with the series as it is with Star Wars, where it's like, that's the desert planet, that's the forest planet. You know, it's not that intense. But there is also the fact that things have been terraformed a certain way. And so it would be a lot more explicable in this universe if it were a sort of like mono ecosystem because it was terraformed that way on purpose. So my question is, like, how much of his own planet is Ragnar familiar with? How spread out is the population? And is there going to be like factions and things that he isn't even aware of? I don't remember if we have heard how long he's been away, if anything could have developed since he has been gone. I don't remember what the like lifespan of Obsidians is meant to be or anything like that. So all of this to say, there's just a lot of factors at play here, and I'm really, really interested in seeing the way the Obsidians live and the way that he'll be like greeted by people and how the response will shake out when he shares with everybody that like the gods aren't real, because nobody wants to hear that. That's just a fact. Like, you come anywhere and try and tell people like, hey, the gods are made up by people in power who want to control you. That is not going to be welcomed. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how much proof you have. It's irrelevant. When people base all their actions for their whole lives on a belief system, and you try and just take that belief system and throw it in the trash, that's going to provoke a really, really strong response. So I'm a little concerned for them. I feel like Ragnar took the information that Darrow gave him the way that he did because it was a one-on-one conversation with somebody who is very, Darrow just has a earnest sincerity to him that comes across. I'm not sure if you try and spread that information at large, how much it will be accepted. And it could backfire potentially. I think that having Ragnar on his side already and having Ragnar out in the world seeing this and the way it works probably will be a major factor for them. But I am just not certain if everybody is going to be as receptive to this as Ragnar was. Also, setting all of that aside, attacking this ship and these people, I'm so worried about them. I feel like it has been a pleasant surprise to me that Holiday is still around. And I'm just like, does she have a target on her back at this point? Like, is she going down soon? I feel like Holiday has sort of only been around recently to kick up a fuss about stuff and be in opposition to Darrow. And I would like to get to see more from her. So I hope that she is safe for a little while, because she needs some room to grow and spread out and show her personality a bit more. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up, but thank you all again so much for listening. Thank you, Cassie, for commissioning this one. Appreciate you a lot. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.